Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, staring at the holographic display that showed the outer edge of human space. The news coming in from the colonies was bad. Very bad. "Sir, we have another report from the Ashkari colonies," Captain Lisa Carter said as she walked up to him. Her face was pale. 3 more cities have been destroyed. The death count is over 2 million now. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. The Ashkari were peaceful beings made of living crystal. They had been humanity's friends for 15 years. They shared their beautiful art and helped humans understand new forms of energy. Now they were dying. "What about the Vector worlds?" Jake asked. "The same. The Zeltharians hit 4 more settlements yesterday. They're targeting the nursery colonies, where the young ones grow." Lisa's voice shook with anger. "These aren't military targets, sir. They're killing families." Jake turned to look at the tactical display. Red markers showed where the Zeltharian Empire was attacking. The attacks formed a clear pattern. They were hitting every world where humanity's 3 closest allies lived: the Ashkari, the Vector insect people, and the Meridians who lived in the oceans of water worlds. And the Meridians? 2 of their floating cities were sunk last night. The Zeltharians used some kind of poison in the water. The entire population died within hours. Lisa handed him a datapad. The children couldn't even swim to safety. Jake read the report. The Meridians were gentle people who looked like dolphins but could speak and build amazing underwater cities. Human children loved to visit their worlds and swim with young Meridians in the safe lagoons. Now those same lagoons were filled with death. "How many Zeltharian ships are we looking at?" Jake asked. "Intelligence says they have over 3,000 warships spread across the attack zones. They're using everything from small destroyers to massive battlecruisers. Our allies have almost no military ships to fight back with." Jake walked to the communications station. "Get me Ambassador Ryan Hughes on the secure channel." A few minutes later, Ryan's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired and angry. Behind him, Jake could see the fancy meeting halls of the Galactic Council station. "Jake, please tell me you have good news." Ryan said, "I wish I did." "What's the council saying about the attacks?" Ryan shook his head. "Nothing useful. They say this is a natural territorial expansion and that the Zeltharians have every right to claim empty space. They don't care that our allies are being murdered." "What about the evidence we sent them? The videos of civilian targets being hit?" "They said it was unfortunate but expected during wartime operations." Ryan's voice was bitter. "The council members from the older empires think the Ashkari, Vector, and Meridians are too weak to deserve protection. They actually laughed when I asked for help." Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. "They laughed?" "The Zorinthian ambassador said that humans should learn to choose stronger friends. The Kelvani representative suggested we abandon our allies and focus on protecting our own colonies instead." "And the others?" "Most of them just sat there and said nothing. A few looked uncomfortable, but none of them spoke up. They're all too afraid of starting trouble with the Zeltharian Empire." Jake stared at the display showing the attacks. Every few minutes, another red dot appeared as a new location was hit. More of his friends were dying while politicians talked about territorial rights. "Ryan, I need you to make one more formal request to the council. Put it in the official records." "Jake, I've already tried 5 times. They won't listen. Try one more time. Request immediate council intervention to stop the attacks on civilian populations. Make sure every ambassador has to vote yes or no on the record." Ryan nodded slowly. "I understand. When should I do this?" "Right now. And Ryan, make sure they know that humanity is watching how they vote." After the call ended, Jake turned to Lisa. "How long would it take to get every human military ship to the outer colonies?" Lisa looked surprised. "Every ship? That would leave Earth and the inner colonies completely undefended. Are you sure about this?" "How long, Lisa?" 2 weeks if we use the fastest hyperspace routes. Maybe 10 days if we push the engines to maximum." She paused. "Sir, what are you planning?" Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was listening. These were good people who had signed up to protect human space. Now he was asking them to risk everything for aliens they might never have met. "Get me a secure channel to Admiral Helen Price at Fleet Command," Jake said. A few minutes later, Admiral Price appeared on screen. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. "Jake, I assume this is about the situation in the outer colonies." "Yes, ma'am. I need permission to move the entire Third Fleet to the attack zones." "That's a big request, Admiral. What's your plan?" "The Zeltharians think we're too weak and too far away to help our allies. They think we'll abandon the Ashkari, Vectar, and Meridians rather than fight a real war." "They might be right about that. The numbers aren't good, Jake. 3,000 enemy ships against maybe 400 human vessels if we combine all our fleets. Numbers don't tell the whole story, ma'am." Admiral Price was quiet for a moment. "What do you want to do?" "I want to send the Zeltharians a message. A simple one." "What kind of message?" Jake looked at the tactical display again. More red dots had appeared while they talked. "More friends were dying. I want to tell them that humanity's terms are simple. Leave our allies alone. That's their only warning. And if they don't listen, then they'll learn why humans don't make threats, we make promises." Admiral Price stared at him through the screen. Finally, she nodded. "You have permission to move the Third Fleet. I'll start mobilizing the other fleets too. If we're doing this, we're doing it right." "Thank you, ma'am." After the call ended, Jake turned to his crew. "All hands, this is Admiral Morrison. We're going to help our friends. Send word to every ship in the fleet. We leave in 6 hours." He walked to the communications station and opened a channel to Zeltharian High Command. The message he recorded was short and simple. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Terran Defense Fleet. You are attacking our allies. You are killing innocent civilians. We are asking you once to stop these attacks immediately. Leave our allies alone. This is your only warning." He sent the message and waited. Within an hour, the reply came back. It was laughter. Actual recorded laughter from the Zeltharian commanders. Jake listened to their mocking response and felt something change inside him. The Zeltharians thought this was funny. They thought human friendship was a joke. They were about to learn how wrong they were. General Kethvar of the Zeltharian Empire sat in his command chair aboard the massive warship Death's Edge. He was still laughing as he watched the human message for the third time. The other Zeltharian officers on the bridge were laughing too. "Did you hear that, warriors?" Kethvar said to his crew. "The humans want us to leave their little friends alone. They think they can threaten us." The bridge erupted in more laughter. Zeltharians were 7 feet tall with thick armor-like skin and natural weapons. They had conquered 43 worlds in the past 50 years. The idea that soft-skinned humans could challenge them was hilarious. "General, should we respond to their message?" asked Commander Vectal, his second in command. "Yes, let's give them something to think about." Kethvar stood up and walked to the communications station. "Send this message to all human colonies and their pathetic allies." He began recording. "Humans of Earth, your warning has been received and ignored. You are children playing with toys in a galaxy meant for warriors. Your allies are weak. They deserve to die. If you want to join them, bring your little ships to fight us. We will crush you like the insects you are." He ended the recording and smiled. "Broadcast that on all channels. Make sure everyone in human space hears it." Meanwhile, on Earth, President Amanda Walsh was meeting with her military leaders in the Situation Room deep under the White House. The room was filled with tension as they watched reports from the outer colonies. "The attacks are getting worse," said General Kevin Brooks, chairman of the Joint Chiefs. "The Zeltharians destroyed the main Ashkari city on Crystal Prime 6 hours ago. 3 million dead." Admiral Helen Price slammed her hand on the table. "We can't just sit here and watch our friends get murdered. We need to mobilize everything we have." "Helen, think about this," General Brooks said. "We have maybe 400 warships total. They have 3,000. If we fight them directly, we'll lose everything. So what do you suggest? That we abandon the people who trusted us?" President Walsh raised her hand for silence. "What are our other options?" "We could try to negotiate," Brooks said. "Maybe offer the Zeltharians something they want in exchange for stopping the attacks." "They don't want anything from us except to watch us suffer," Admiral Price replied. These aren't reasonable people, Kevin. They're killers who enjoy causing pain. The argument was interrupted when an aide rushed into the room. Madam President, you need to see this right away. He put a datapad on the table and activated the holographic display. The image showed a human patrol ship in deep space. Commander Tony Garcia's voice could be heard giving his report. This is Commander Garcia of the patrol ship Ranger. We are observing Zeltharian forces attacking the Vectar colony on Garden World. They are using chemical weapons against civilian populations. The image switched to show the surface of Garden World. Vectar families were running through their beautiful forest cities as green gas fell from the sky like deadly rain. The Vectar looked like large, intelligent insects with colorful shells and gentle eyes. Adults were trying to protect their young ones, but the gas was eating through their natural armor. The chemicals are dissolving their outer shells. Garcia's voice continued. They're dying in horrible pain. I can see younglings crying for their parents. This is not warfare, this is torture. The room went completely silent as they watched Vectar children collapsing as their protective shells melted away. These were not soldiers or threats. They were families trying to live in peace. President Walsh stood up slowly. Her face had gone very pale, but her eyes were hard as steel. Get me a direct line to Admiral Morrison. Then prepare a broadcast to all human colonies. What are you going to tell them? General Brooks asked. The truth. That our friends are being murdered and we're going to stop it. 2 hours later, President Walsh stood before cameras in the Oval Office. Her speech was broadcast to every human colony, space station, and ship in the galaxy. My fellow humans, by now you have seen the reports from the outer colonies. Our allies, the Ashkari, Vectar, and Meridians are under attack. These are not military strikes against enemy soldiers. These are deliberate attacks on innocent families. She paused and looked directly into the camera. The Zeltharian Empire believes we are weak because we choose peace over war. They believe we are few because we value every life. They think we will abandon our friends rather than risk our own safety. Her voice grew stronger. They are about to learn why those qualities don't make us weak. They make us dangerous. Across human space, the response was immediate. On New Detroit factory, worker Dan Murphy was welding parts for mining equipment when the broadcast ended. He put down his tools and walked to his supervisor. I'm joining the military, Dan said. My shift ends in 10 minutes. Find someone else to finish this. His supervisor nodded. I'll be right behind you, Dan. In the research labs on Science Station, Alpha Dr. Amy Thompson was working on a project to improve crop growth on desert worlds. After watching the president's speech, she saved her work and sent a message to Fleet Medical Command. This is Dr. Thompson. I'm volunteering for military service. I can have new battlefield medical techniques ready in 3 days. The same scene played out across hundreds of human worlds. People left their jobs, their families, their comfortable lives to help friends they had never met. Factory workers became soldiers. Scientists became military researchers. Even children too young to fight started collecting supplies for the war effort. On the mining station Deep Rock, the workers had spent 5 years digging rare metals from an asteroid. When they heard about the attacks, they made a decision. Station Chief Bill Carter sent a message to Fleet Command. We're converting our mining lasers to weapons. Our cargo ships can carry troops. Deep Rock Station is ready to fight. Admiral Jake Morrison received hundreds of similar messages as his fleet moved toward the outer colonies. Humans were volunteering faster than the military could process them. Ships that had been carrying trade goods were being converted to carry weapons and soldiers. But it was the message from the Meridian survivors that affected him the most. A group of young Meridians had escaped when their city was destroyed. They sent a simple message to Admiral Morrison. Human friend Jake, our parents are dead. Our home is gone. But we still trust you. Please help the others who are still alive. Morrison showed the message to Captain Lisa Carter. She wiped tears from her eyes after reading it. They still trust us after everything that's happened to them, she said. Then we better make sure that trust wasn't misplaced, Morrison replied. He opened a channel to all human ships. This is Admiral Morrison. The enemy thinks we're too weak to fight and too few to matter. They think friendship is weakness and mercy is foolishness. When we reach the combat zone, we're going to show them the difference between weakness and restraint. He paused, thinking about the dead Ashkari children, the dissolving Vectar families, the poisoned Meridian cities. They wanted a war. They're going to get one, but it won't be the kind of war they expect. We don't fight like other species. We fight for each other, and we never, ever abandon our friends. In the depths of space, the human fleet continued toward the outer colonies. Behind them, more ships were launching from every human world. The Zeltharians had made their biggest mistake. They had made humanity angry. Admiral Vorthak of the Zeltharian fleet looked at his tactical display with satisfaction. His 300 warships surrounded the water world of Tidal Prime, home to 2 million Meridians. The planet's blue oceans sparkled below them, filled with the beautiful floating cities that the Meridians had built over thousands of years. "Sir, we have detected human ships approaching," reported his tactical officer. "How many?" Vorthak asked without concern. 47 vessels, sir, led by a ship called the UES Defender." Vorthak laughed. 47 ships against 300? The humans are even more foolish than I thought. Order all ships to battle positions. We will destroy their tiny fleet and then finish burning this pathetic water world. On the bridge of the UES Defender, Captain Steve Parker studied the enemy formation. His small fleet was badly outnumbered, but he had spent weeks studying Zeltharian battle tactics. They always fought the same way. Big ships in straight lines using superior numbers to overwhelm their enemies. "Lisa, what's the status on our special modifications?" Steve asked his weapons officer, Lieutenant Lisa Grant. "All ships have the new torpedo guidance systems installed. The Meridians gave us detailed maps of the ocean currents and thermal layers. We can use them to hide our attack runs." Steve nodded. The Meridians had been more than willing to help, even though their own cities were about to be destroyed. They understood something the Zeltharians didn't. Humans never fought alone. "All ships, this is Captain Parker. Remember, we're not trying to beat them in a straight fight. We're trying to save lives and buy time for reinforcements. Use the planet's gravity and the ocean thermal layers to mask your movements. Work in pairs, watch each other's backs, and don't try to be heroes." The battle began when Vorthak's heavy cruisers opened fire with their massive plasma cannons. Bright green energy beams lanced through space toward the human ships. But the human vessels weren't where the Zeltharians expected them to be. Lieutenant Commander Rachel Stone led her squadron of 4 destroyers in a wide arc around the planet. Instead of charging straight at the enemy like most species would do, her ships used Tidal Prime's strong gravity to slingshot around the world at incredible speeds. "Now!" Rachel shouted as her ships came around the planet's dark side. Her destroyers launched a full spread of torpedoes at the Zeltharian heavy cruisers. But these weren't normal torpedoes. Human engineers had modified them to use the planet's thermal layers and electromagnetic fields to hide their approach. The Zeltharian ships never saw them coming. 6 heavy cruisers exploded in brilliant flashes of light before Vorthak even realized he was under attack. "Impossible," Vorthak roared. "How did they get behind us?" On another part of the battlefield, Captain Roy Mitchell was leading his 3 frigates against a group of Zeltharian destroyers. The enemy ships were bigger and more heavily armed, but Roy had something they didn't: 20 years of experience fighting space pirates in the asteroid belts. "Follow my lead, boys," Roy said to his pilots. "Remember, these big ships can't turn as fast as we can." Roy's ships dove toward the Zeltharian formation, weaving between their weapons fire like dancers. When the enemy ships tried to turn to follow them, the human vessels were already behind them, launching precise torpedo strikes at their engine sections. But the battle's most important moment came when Vorthak decided to target the Meridian civilians directly. His flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds, turned its massive guns toward the largest floating city on the planet's surface. "If the humans want to protect these fish people so badly, let them watch them die," Vorthak snarled. Commander Brad Taylor saw what was happening from his position aboard the destroyer UES Guardian. The Zeltharian flagship was preparing to fire on 3 million innocent Meridians, including thousands of children in the city's schools and hospitals. Brad looked at his tactical display. His ship could intercept the plasma blast, but it would mean certain death for him and his crew of 90 people. "All hands, this is the captain," Brad announced over the ship's communication system. "We have a chance to save 3 million innocent lives. It's going to cost us everything. Anyone who wants to use the escape pods has 30 seconds. Not a single crew member left their post. Brad piloted his ship directly between the Zeltharian flagship and the Meridian City. The massive plasma blast hit the Guardian Square in the center, tearing the ship apart. But the blast was absorbed and scattered, saving the city below. As his ship burned around him, Brad sent his final message. His voice was calm and steady. Worth it. Tell my wife I love her. Guardian out. The sacrifice shocked both sides. Zeltharian officers stared at their displays, unable to understand what they had just witnessed. Humans had deliberately died to save aliens they barely knew. But for the human fleet, Brad's sacrifice was not shocking. It was inspiring. All ships, this is Captain Parker. Brad Taylor and his crew just showed us what we're fighting for. Not for territory or glory, but for the right of innocent people to live in peace. Let's make their sacrifice count. The human ships began fighting with a coordination that amazed even their own commanders. When Captain Sue Williams's cruiser took heavy damage, 2 other ships immediately moved to cover her retreat. When Lieutenant Mark Johnson's destroyer ran low on torpedoes, Captain Frank Miller's ship shared their ammunition supply. Most importantly, every time a Zeltharian ship tried to target Meridian civilians, multiple human vessels would move to block the attack. The humans were using their own ships as shields, protecting the people they had come to save. The turning point came when Rachel Stone's squadron executed a maneuver that military historians would later call impossible. Using precise calculations of the planet's tidal forces and magnetic fields, her 4 ships synchronized their movements to hit 12 different Zeltharian vessels simultaneously. This is insane, muttered the Zeltharian tactical officer. They're flying their ships like they're connected by invisible wires. Humans don't fight like individuals, observed Commander Thekral, Vorthak's second in command. They fight like a single organism with many bodies. By the end of the battle, over half of Vorthak's fleet was destroyed or crippled. The human fleet had lost 18 ships, but they had saved Tidal Prime and its 3 million inhabitants. As the surviving Zeltharian ships retreated, Vorthak stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His superior force had been defeated by a much smaller human fleet, but that wasn't what troubled him most. What troubled him was the final message the humans had sent to the Meridian survivors. You're safe now. We'll stay here until reinforcements arrive to make sure no one bothers you again. The humans weren't just fighting to win battles. They were fighting to protect people they considered friends. They were willing to die for aliens they had never met, simply because those aliens had trusted them. Vorthak's report to Zeltharian High Command was filled with tactical analysis and casualty reports. But his final note was the most important. The humans don't fight like other species. They fight as if every alien life is as valuable as their own. This makes them more dangerous than we calculated. General Kethvar read the report with growing anger. The humans had humiliated his finest admiral and saved an entire world. But if they thought this would stop the Zeltharian Empire, they were wrong. If humans wanted to play protector to inferior species, he would give them more death than they could possibly prevent. The war was just beginning. General Kethvar stood in his war room staring at the holographic display showing the defeat at Tidal Prime. His rage was so intense that his armored skin had turned a deep red color. Around him, his officers waited nervously for orders. So, the humans think they can embarrass the Zeltharian Empire, Kethvar said slowly. They think their little victory makes them heroes. We will show them what real warfare looks like. He turned to his communications officer. Send orders to Admiral Jektar at the Vectar homeworld. I want every single insect on that planet dead within 24 hours. And I want it broadcast live across the galaxy. Sir, that's an entire species. Over 50 million Vectar live on their homeworld. Exactly. If the humans want to protect their bug friends so badly, they can watch them all die. Make sure every human ship and colony receives the transmission. I want them to see what happens when you defy the Zeltharian Empire. 6 hours later, Admiral Jake Morrison was coordinating relief supplies for Ashkari refugees when the emergency alert came through. Captain Lisa Carter ran onto the bridge with a look of horror on her face. Sir, you need to see this immediately. The Zeltharians are broadcasting something on all channels. The main screen activated to show the beautiful forest world of Vekome, the original planet where the Vectar species had evolved. The insect people had built their cities in harmony with the giant trees, creating a paradise that visitors said was the most beautiful world in the galaxy. But now Zeltharian soldiers were walking through those cities with weapons designed for one purpose: killing every living thing they found. "This is Admiral Jektar of the Zeltharian Death Fleet," came a voice over the broadcast. "Humans of Earth and your pathetic colonies, watch and learn. This is what happens to those who trust you for protection." The camera followed Zeltharian death squads as they moved through Vectar neighborhoods. The insect people tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Parents held their young ones close, making sounds in their complex language that needed no translation. They were crying. Morrison watched families of Vectar huddled together in their beautiful tree houses as the soldiers approached. The adult Vectar had colorful shells that caught the sunlight, and their young ones had soft, pale shells that would harden as they grew older. They were gentle people who had never hurt anyone. "Sir, I can't watch this," said Lieutenant Tom Rogers from the navigation station. His voice was shaking. "None of us can," Morrison replied. "But we have to. We need to remember this." The broadcast continued for hours. The Zeltharian soldiers were not just killing the Vectar. They were taking their time, making them suffer. They destroyed the art galleries where Vectar displayed their beautiful sculptures. They burned the libraries where the insect people kept their poetry and music. They even destroyed the nurseries where the youngest Vectar were still developing. The end of the day, 53 million Vectar were dead. An entire civilization had been wiped out in 24 hours. Morrison stood silently on his bridge as the final images showed empty Vectar cities burning in the twilight. His crew was crying. Some were angry. All of them were changed. "Sir," Carter said quietly, "we're receiving a priority message from Earth." President Amanda Walsh appeared on the screen. Her face was pale and her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steady and cold. "Admiral Morrison, you have new orders. Full authorization for species survival protocol. Use any and all measures necessary to stop the Zeltharian Empire. No restrictions, no limits." Morrison nodded slowly. Species survival protocol was humanity's most secret and powerful set of military options. It had never been used before because it was designed for only one situation: when humanity or its closest allies faced complete extinction. "Ma'am, are you sure about this? Once we activate those protocols, there's no going back." "Admiral, I just watched an entire species die because they trusted us to protect them. I'm very sure." After the call ended, Morrison turned to his crew. "All senior officers to the briefing room. We're about to change how this war is fought." In the briefing room, Morrison activated the security locks and opened files that most of his officers had never seen before. The plans showed weapons and tactics that humanity had developed but hoped never to use. "Dr. Karen White will brief us on what we've learned about Zeltharian psychology," Morrison said. Dr. White, the fleet's alien behavior specialist, stood up with a data pad. "I've been studying captured Zeltharian equipment and communications. What I've found is disturbing. They don't kill civilians for military reasons. They do it because their culture believes that causing suffering proves strength." She activated a holographic display showing Zeltharian brain scans. They literally cannot understand concepts like mercy or restraint. In their minds, if you have the power to cause pain and you choose not to, you are weak and deserve to be destroyed. Captain Carter spoke up. "So there's no way to negotiate with them?" "None. They will continue killing our allies until we're all dead, or until they are stopped permanently." Morrison nodded grimly. "Colonel Matt Jackson, what do our Vectar survivors have to tell us?" Colonel Jackson activated another display. "The Vectar who escaped the homeworld have provided detailed intelligence on Zeltharian military installations. They know the location of the main Zeltharian command world, Zelthara Prime. The display showed a heavily fortified planet surrounded by defense stations and protected by nearly 2,000 warships. It's their capital world and military headquarters. If we can take it, we can end this war." "How many ships would we need for an assault?" Morrison asked. Conservative estimate? Every human warship in existence plus whatever our remaining allies can provide. Even then, the chances of success are less than 30%. Morrison looked around the room at his officers. These were good people who had signed up to defend human space, not to launch desperate attacks against impossible odds. "I won't order anyone to do this," Morrison said, "but I'm going to ask for volunteers for the most dangerous mission in human history. We're going to attack the Zeltharian homeworld and end this war permanently." Every hand in the room went up immediately. "Sir," Captain Carter said, "with respect, you don't need to ask for volunteers. After what we just watched, every human in the fleet will volunteer." Morrison activated his communication system and sent a message to every human ship and colony in the galaxy. "This is Admiral Morrison. The Zeltharian Empire has shown us what they really are. Monsters who kill innocent people for pleasure. They think we'll surrender rather than face their full strength. They're wrong." He paused, thinking about the dead Vectar families, the burned Ashkari cities, the poisoned Meridian children. "We're going to attack their homeworld. We're going to use every ship, every weapon, and every tactic we have. We're going to show them that some lines should never be crossed, and we're going to make sure this never happens to anyone else ever again." The response from across human space was immediate. Every available ship began moving toward the rally point. Retired veterans came out of retirement to crew old warships. Civilian cargo vessels were converted into troop transports. Even the ILA, deep space mining station, sent their modified equipment ships. But the most important response came from an unexpected source. The surviving Ashkari, Vectar, and Meridians sent a joint message to Admiral Morrison. "Human friends, we have ships. They are not strong like yours, but they can fly and they can fight. We want to stand with you when you face the enemy. Our people died because they trusted you to protect them. Now we trust you to help us get justice for them." Morrison read the message aloud to his crew. When he finished, there wasn't a dry eye on the bridge. "Sir," Carter said, "they're still willing to fight beside us after everything that's happened. That's what friends do, Lisa. They stand together, especially when things look impossible." Morrison opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, all crews, prepare for the final battle. We're going to Zelthara Prime and we're going to end this war. The Zeltharians wanted to teach us about strength through cruelty. We're going to teach them about strength through unity." He looked out at the stars where his friends had died and where his enemies waited. "They think we're weak because we choose to protect others. They're about to learn that protecting others is what makes us strong." The space around Zelthara Prime had never seen so many ships in one place. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, looking at the tactical display that showed over 800 human vessels approaching the Zeltharian homeworld. Behind them came another 200 ships carrying the surviving Ashkari, Vectar, and Meridians. "Sir, long-range sensors show the Zeltharian home defense fleet," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim. "Nearly 2,000 ships arranged in defensive formations around the planet." Morrison nodded. The numbers were still bad, but numbers had never been the point. This wasn't about winning a fair fight. This was about making sure the Zeltharians could never hurt innocent people again. "Captain Carter, signal all ships, begin final approach." On the planet below, General Kethavar watched the approaching human fleet from his command bunker deep underground. The humans had brought everything they had just as he expected. But Zelthara Prime was the most heavily defended world in Zeltharian space. "Let them come," Kethavar said to his officers. "We will destroy every human ship and then finish exterminating their pathetic allies. This ends today." The battle began when the Zeltharian orbital defense platforms opened fire. Massive energy beams lanced out toward the human fleet, but the human ships were ready. They had studied Zeltharian weapons for weeks and knew exactly how to avoid them. Captain Steve Parker, now commanding a battle group of 30 ships, led the first wave. His vessels moved in perfect coordination, weaving between the defense beams like they were dancing. When the Zeltharians tried to predict their movements, the humans had already changed direction. "All ships remember the plan," Parker broadcast. "We're not here to destroy everything, we're here to end this war permanently." The human ships began targeting the Zeltharian vessels with precision strikes, Instead of trying to destroy every enemy ship, they focused on disabling engines and weapon systems. They wanted the Zeltharian crews alive to see what happened when you threatened humanity's friends. But the most incredible moment came when Commander Rachel Stone led her squadron directly at the planetary defense grid. She was outnumbered 50-1, facing weapons powerful enough to destroy entire cities. "This is for the Vectar children," Rachel said as her ships dove toward the defensive stations. Her pilots flew their ships with skill that bordered on impossible. They spun between defensive fire, using the planet's magnetic fields and gravity to accelerate their movements. When Zeltharian gunners tried to track them, the human ships seemed to disappear and reappear in different positions. "How are they doing that?" demanded the Zeltharian defense commander. "They're using our own planet's gravity against us," his tactical officer replied in amazement. "They've calculated every magnetic field and gravitational pull around the planet. They're flying like they know our defenses better than we do." One by one, the defensive stations went silent as Rachel's squadron disabled them with surgical precision. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. The surviving alien ships, Ashkari crystal vessels, Vectar bioships, and Meridian watercraft, suddenly appeared on the other side of the planet. Their ships were small and their weapons were weak, but they weren't there to tip the military balance. They were there to show the galaxy that some friendships are worth dying for. Admiral Bektar, commanding the Zeltharian Reserve Fleet, stared at his sensors in confusion. "Why are they here? Their weapons can barely scratch our armor." But as the alien ships began their attack runs, something amazing happened. Every time a Zeltharian ship tried to destroy one of the small alien vessels, 3 human ships would immediately move to protect it. The humans were using their own powerful warships as shields for their weaker allies. "They're protecting ships that can't even help them win," Bektar said in disbelief. "Sir, I don't think they care about winning," his tactical officer replied. "I think they care about keeping their friends alive." The tide of battle turned when Admiral Morrison's flagship, the UES Liberty, broke through the final line of Zeltharian defenses. The massive human battleship, supported by 50 other vessels, positioned itself directly over the Zeltharian capital city. In his underground bunker, General Kethvar watched his supposedly impregnable defenses crumble. His superior numbers meant nothing against an enemy that fought with such perfect coordination. His advanced weapons were useless against ships that moved like they shared a single mind. "General, the humans are requesting communication," reported his communications officer. "Put them through," Kethvar snarled. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on the main screen. His expression was calm, but his eyes held the weight of 53 million dead Vectar, millions of murdered Ashkari, and countless poisoned Meridians. "General Kethvar, I have a message for you and your leadership. You think you've won, human? Even if you destroy this world, the Zeltharian Empire has 1,000 other planets. We will rebuild and finish what we started." Morrison shook his head slowly. "You still don't understand. This was never about territory or revenge. This was about making sure you can never hurt innocent people again." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "Our terms were simple from the beginning. Leave our allies alone. You chose not to accept those terms. Now you get our new terms." Morrison's voice became quiet but absolutely certain. "Surrender unconditionally and submit to trial for war crimes, or we will make your species extinct. You have 10 minutes to decide." Kethvar laughed harshly. "You're bluffing, human. You don't have the weapons to destroy an entire species. General, you've spent this entire war underestimating what humans are capable of when you threaten the people we care about. Don't make that mistake again." Morrison ended the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. "Activate the planetary bombardment systems. Target military installations only. Make sure they understand we're serious." The first strikes hit Zeltharian military bases with pinpoint accuracy. The weapons humanity had kept secret weren't just powerful, they were precise. They could destroy a military bunker without harming the hospital next door. "Sir," came a panicked voice from Kethvar's tactical station. "They're not hitting civilian targets at all. They're only destroying our military capabilities." Kethvar, stared at his displays as one military installation after another was systematically destroyed. The humans could have killed millions of Zeltharian civilians, but they were choosing not to. Even in their moment of complete victory, they were showing mercy to a species that had shown none. With 8 minutes left on Morrison's deadline, Kethvar's communications officer received an urgent message. "Sir, it's from the Zeltharian High Council on the Capital World." The supreme leader of the Zeltharian Empire appeared on screen. His armored face showed fear for the first time in centuries. "General Kethvar, you will surrender immediately. The human fleet is not the only force we're facing. Human ships have appeared at every major Zeltharian world simultaneously. They're demanding the same surrender terms everywhere." Kethvar felt his blood turn cold. "How many ships do they have?" "More than we ever imagined. And they're not alone. Species from across the galaxy are joining them. Everyone we've attacked over the years, everyone we've threatened, they're all fighting together now." The Supreme Leader's voice cracked with desperation. "The humans have done something we thought was impossible. They've united half the galaxy against us. We either surrender now or face extinction." With 1 minute left on the deadline, Kethvar opened a channel to the human fleet. "Admiral Morrison, the Zeltharian Empire accepts your terms. We surrender unconditionally." Morrison nodded once. "General, you and your leadership will be turned over to the surviving members of the species you tried to exterminate. They will decide your fate. Your military will be dismantled. Your weapons will be destroyed. And you will never again threaten innocent people." He paused for a moment. "But your people will live. Your children will grow up. Your civilians will be protected, because that's the difference between us and you. We know when to stop." 6 months later, Admiral Morrison, now bearing the title Protector of Allied Species, stood in his new office overlooking the rebuilt Ashkari colony on Crystal Prime. Through his window, he could see human and Ashkari children playing together in the gardens that had been replanted after the Zeltharian attacks. Captain Lisa Carter entered with a data pad. "Sir, we've received a request for protection from a species called the Benthari. They say the Krillian Empire is threatening to invade their homeworld." Morrison took the data pad and read the request. Another species asking for help. Another group of innocent people who needed protection from bullies who thought might made right. He activated his communication system and sent a message to the Benthari homeworld. "This is Admiral Morrison of the Terran Protection Fleet. Send us the coordinates of the threat. Help is on the way." As his ships prepared to launch toward another crisis, Morrison looked out at the peaceful scene below. Human and alien children playing together, parents of different species sharing stories, artists from a dozen worlds creating beauty instead of weapons. This was what they had fought for. Not conquest or glory, but the simple right of innocent people to live in peace. And as long as humanity existed, that peace would be protected. The age of human expansion was over.